Bumpier got it. We have the joy of Reverend Terry Dearmore today. He's going to talk to us about the competition myth. It's about the misguided belief that Darwinian thinking or natural selection, that is survival of the fittest, is the logical view for upward expansion of humankind's evolution. I'm curious to get into this, but just real quick, before becoming a minister in 96, Oklahoma-born Terry was a studio singer and a musician in Nashville. I think that's kind of cool. Terry moved to Kona, spent 5 years there. Back to Nashville, taught at First Church Unity, as you can see, moved to Unity Village. So right here in Lee St. Mo, upon graduation, took an associate minister's position in Fairfax, VA. And then those of you who showed up a little early got to hear some more detail about that. Thank you, Terry, for sharing. And final brick and mortar church is right in Northern VA, Chantilly. I think it's maybe not fair to say, but there you go. From 05 until now. And he's still speaking even in retirement, which we love, both at the Northern Virginia Church and here today. So, Terry, would you grace us with your words?
Okay, thank you so much for all of that. It's great to see every one of you, and I hope that I'll get a chance to get to know you a little bit better in the coffee time together. And I want to speak today about something that has been going on a long, long time, that has been preached to the world as a truth and as a basis for living, that I think is misguided. I call it a myth, but what I really mean is a misguided idea. And here's why. We have an entire economy based on something that works pretty well. It's based on competition. We've got people that start businesses, and they are in competition with other people in the same trade, and they try to do a better job. And this all is very good. It's good to see this part of it, until some of these companies become corporations and grow and grow and grow to the point where people are just numbers. They no longer exist to be served. They are there to be used. And that is where competition fails all of us, in my opinion. I learned a long time ago that competition can be something that is misguided. And so I've got a little story here to tell you about it that happened in 1966. Lord, I can't believe it's that long ago. I was pledging a fraternity in the little town of Edmond, Oklahoma, at a college there called, at that time, Central State College. It's now called University of Central Oklahoma because it's expanded and grown so much. It had lots of buildings on the campus that were built out of sandstone, that many of you in the Missouri area may be quite aware of. It's a red colored stone, and they hewed it right out of the ground and built these structures. The main portion of the building had classrooms in it, which I attended even as a grade school child. And by the time I was doing this pledging, we were taken by our pledge master, or whatever we called this guy, who was just a year older than we were, but you know, he was already a member, and so we were listening to him. There were about 18 of us, and we were taken and walked down to the beginning of the college, a long brick walk, about a block long. At the end of it was a very imposing building called Old North Tower. It had a great big tall tower with two wings on the sides. And the tower went up about 6 stories. And inside the tower was a bell, some bells, and a clock that you could see from the entire little small town of Edmond, Oklahoma. And in front of this, in front of the front doors, standing out a little ways, was a little fountain. It had a little seat around it, a little circular seat all the way around it where you could sit and talk if you wanted, and then a little small iconic structure in the middle that went up and had water coming out the top of it, running down the sides into a little pool. And of course, there were goldfish in the pool and pennies and you name it. We're all standing there together as young, older boys, but young men will do. And we're standing there sort of murmuring to one another. He comes up and says, "Okay, here is your mission. I want you all to run down to the fountain and run around the fountain, make a U-turn, and I want you all to come back to this spot. All right? Go." The first thing that happened is we turned it into a competition. Who can get around that fountain the fastest and who can get back the soonest? And we did that, and we raced our way down there, and we turned and came back as fast as we could run, all out of breath and smiling and laughing kind of and everything. And he said, and as we did this, you could hear behind us sort of a squeaking and dragging sound, squeaking and dragging, squeaking and dragging. When Charlie, the person who had contracted polio when we were children, finally caught up with us after about 2 or 3 minutes and joined us again with his wry smile, his personality that just beamed all the time, the one who didn't look at anything in his life as a detriment. He saw himself as a full, whole person. He just couldn't run and walk as fast as other people. The person who was leading us looked at us all and said, "You failed. You failed. You didn't listen. You failed. You're going to do this again. But this time you're going to listen closely to my instructions. I asked or commanded that each one of you, all of you, run down and run around that fountain, and all of you to return. This isn't a competition. There's another lesson here." So we did. And this time we were aware not to outrun one another, and especially not to outrun Charlie. So we ran at Charlie's pace, which for some of us were just a little trot. And we went all the way down there. And I looked around at my pledge brothers, and I was seeing some of them with shock in their faces, others with tears in their eyes, others smiling as they looked over at Charlie, who was giving that wry smile of his. And we all went together. We all turned together. And we all came back together. And though the first time we went around and back took less than 2 minutes, this one took over 7, 8 minutes to do. But we learned a great lesson, a lesson that's never left me. And that lesson is, it is untrue, it is a myth that a group is only as strong as its weakest link. Untrue. Totally bogus. If that were true, then we would be living in a time of Darwinian existence, the survival of the fittest, and we would be destroying or pushing aside anyone else. And as a result, we wouldn't have had a Stephen Hawking. We wouldn't have had so many characters in our lives, including Charlie. Charlie went on to be in the House of Representatives of Oklahoma. Charlie went on to become an attorney. Charlie led a very successful and full life as a father, as a husband, as an attorney, as a legislator, and later in Owen, by the way, and as a church member. And he taught lessons to all of us. Here's the main thing I learned from that. We really can't look at life as a competition. We have to look at life as a conglomeration of people. People who work together to create something, as opposed to just people who work to destroy the other guy. That just doesn't work. I think as people who understand the universal story of life, all of you are in that position where competition just isn't that important to you. Competition isn't the answer to having a good and successful life. So rather than seeing life as a chain, which is only as strong as its weakest link, as I said, I think rather we should view life as a rope, which is made up of thousands and thousands of fibers, all connecting to one another in such a pattern that each one is important, pulling together, or as a cable made of thousands and thousands of wires, thousands and thousands of ideas and feelings and emotions that all come together to create a better life, something that can pull all of us from one place to another, from one situation to another. Wouldn't it be grand if everyone had these beliefs instilled in their minds as children, rather than the idea of the fastest, the smartest, all these ideas? Yes, it's good to show off your intellect. It's good to have these things. You know, there was a period in time where they would have events for children and everybody got a trophy. Well, that sort of seems okay, but it's really missing the point. The point is that there shouldn't be any trophies. There should simply be the event. And every person there should realize that the event is the important thing. The being together is the important thing. That there isn't a faster one, a slower one, a smarter one. There is a group all working together, all working together. So I encourage each one of you to look at life as a rope or as a cable, all coming together with all the little sinews of life and all the experiences, and express and celebrate each person, who they are, where they are, and not to see them as an other, because in reality, they're not. There are no others, only in our minds, if we allow it, and only if we believe the myth. God bless. Thanks.